Good morning and welcome back to central Portugal. The village nearby where I'm actually staying, there is actually a musical festival or a festival of types, and I think it's on for 3 or 4 days over the weekend period. It's still going. It's, well, just coming up to 7 o'clock in the morning, and that's been going all night, and we can hear the music from here. When we drove back through, there were, well, literally hundreds of people milling about. Fantastic sight to see. And we did go in for a few hours the previous night, but the heat takes it out of us and the kids. So Portuguese people are a lot more hardier and robust when it comes to heat and staying up all night partying. So yeah, they can definitely beat us anyway, Cornish people. I'm going to get out for a little walk and we're going to have a little talk. And the subject today is fear and personal fear. So we went into the local town to see this festival and we really enjoyed it. But we just could not manage to stay up late enough to see all the music. Unlike some of the locals, it was 7 in the morning before they finished. Last of the early morning party goers, just about to finish. Well, the music has finally stopped and it's way past 7 o'clock. So hats off to those people, or the last stragglers, keeping the fire burning. But I don't even think when I was younger I could do that. By 2, 3 o'clock I was either drunk or I was too tired. But yeah, hats off to them. But yesterday we went to basically a river, a swimming river that had what would be a waterfall when there's large volumes of water going over it. But it's kind of a big kind of like ledge, rock ledge, that you can jump off into a basin of water which is quite deep. I'm 5'7". I'm guessing it was probably, I don't know, 12, 15, 20 feet deep. It was deep enough for you to be able to jump off relatively safely. Although I did see some people diving in head first. Nah, not for me that anyway. But I'm just out exploring a few of the trackways that I haven't been on here. There is still a few actually, and I'm just coming out of the village from a different angle. So yeah, this should be a quite good fun exploration. But I'm always careful, I'm not actually intruding on private property, so I'm a little bit cautious. But putting that to one side, my 2 young boys, they've never jumped in there when we've been here before. We've seen kids their age do it, but my kids have always been too cautious. But this time, without hardly any prompting, they just went and did it. Just a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of like, yeah, go on. And they went and done it. And I felt a sense of pride, a real sense of achievement for them. For the simple fact, they overcome fear to jump off that. There's no shame if you just can't get past that. But on a personal level, being able to control fear on some level is quite good and healthy. But it's also healthy to respect fear, because it's a natural inbuilt safety mechanism, and mechanism which keeps most of us alive.
You're the youngest to ever jump in there.
You owe your brother 10. I'm going to get in, tell him, shout him.
Yeah, because you can't see they're in there freezing. It's boiling because
Scaredy cat!
I've just walked up there and I've come across this building here. Nice little find. Don't know what it is, but it does look like a whitewashed gate, so it's probably part of somebody's property. Is this an old church? Possibly. Let's have a look here. I've got a feeling this may have been an old church. Yeah, this looks like possibly an old church, I would say. I'm just guessing. But in any case, let's carry on. Well, I haven't been on this particular trackway, so all this to me is as new as it is to you seeing it. And I always get a little buzz of excitement being somewhere new and different. That's part of what I do when I'm here, just amble along the trackways and lanes, just taking it all in. So most of us will feel fear at some point in our lives, and quite often if we're experiencing that, it's probably not at the best times of our life. I can remember feeling it. I'm a young boy of the 70s, and yeah, you know, at an early age, you know, doing things like falling off bikes, go-karts, swings, you know, and coming a cropper when you fell off or crashed. And then there was on top of it, you know, getting into scraps. And, you know, it was 50-50 for me whether I was going to come out on top, because, yeah, I wasn't the most, most robust of fighters. But like I said, it was a 50-50. So, you know, you could probably put a bet on which way it would go, and you may win or you may lose. But there was definitely some people, as we all know from our school days, that, you know, really were the ones you had to watch. But I've come to another split. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm actually going to try this one because I've got the sun on my back, so I can escape the worst of the glare. It's a real beautiful morning. And now the music stopped, I've got the tranquility back as well. And I'm obviously far enough out of town anyway. Now, like I said, having a healthy respect for fear can save your life. And it stopped me getting into accidents when I was on motorbikes and cars on a few occasions. Although I've had accidents on motorbikes and cars. But I remember one occasion coming into a town near where I live, and I worked for a motorbike garage, and I had, you know, a pretty swift motorbike for a 125 two-stroke, and it was a trail bike, which is kind of like a DT 125, but mine was tuned up to the absolute max because I had expert knowledge from my boss, who tuned motorbikes for competition use. So you can imagine mine would, well, easily surpass most of the what I would call the just generally tuned up two-strokes. And I remember racing one lad into the town, and there was a long sweeping bend, and I was on the inside, he was on the outside, and as we went round the corner, I suddenly realised my arc or turning ability was being restricted by a motorbike right beside me, so I couldn't really bank right over and get right into it, and I nearly hit the pavement. Missed it by inches, I think. And as I came out the corner, I just let go the throttle, and I could not believe the speed I was attempting that corner with a motorbike just on my offside, restricting me banking over. And yeah, it yeah, again, like fear, it made me slow up. And after that occasion, it scared me senseless. I realised, you know, that I could have really done myself some harm, or I think I would have been killed because of the speed we were travelling. But I did have another accident before that actually, where I came off, slid down the road, hit the pavement with the bottom of my back, and I couldn't feel my legs or lower back or anything like that for a couple hours, and that was due to bruising on my back. And as that subsided, it meant that I could bon dia. Two mountain bikers, so I'm obviously on the track, I can walk. No, but that actually meant you know, I got my feeling and use of my legs properly back. That scared me senseless, but not enough, as it seems, for me not to end up in that other situation. Looks like a little bit of abandoned ground there. They've taken the cork off that tree. A little bit patchy. It's usually a lot cleaner when they take it off. So yeah, I was immensely proud and you know, a sense of enormous well, parental pride in that they jumped off, because I realised they were conquering a personal fear of their own. And in the end, we couldn't stop them. They were going down all the water chutes and jumping off here. There, my eldest son jumped off the highest rock, which was just behind the ladder, and we were all sort of really apprehensive about that. But yeah, real pride. But it left us with in the evening, sitting down thinking to ourselves, oh, we haven't thought about the possible consequences of this. It's a nice big property there. I think I'm coming back into the town in some alleyway or something. This one didn't go very far. Yeah, that went about a quarter of a mile, and it arced all the way back into the town, or further up the one end of the town. So I'll try the other one. That does look like it pushes further out into the bush, or the wilderness as I want to call it. But yeah, so getting back to the story, we realised that they were jumping off this cliff and ledge. They were watching other people and myself, so they were in full knowledge, and obviously had a bit of fear lifted because they saw we were doing it and that they could do it as well safely. But then we started to think about all the people, kids, adults, people that have hurt themselves diving and jumping into water. We hadn't given that a thought while we were there. You know, obviously the immediate danger's there, but what happens if they decide when we're not around just to jump into a body of water? So we had to go through the whole process of explaining how dangerous doing something that, like what they've just done, is potentially life-threatening if they're just doing it in random spots, or spots that they're not fully aware of what is under the water or how deep the water is. So it was a double-edged sword. While I was filled with pride, a few hours later, me and my wife were trying to explain to the kids, you can't just go doing that anywhere. And the look on their face was one of confusion and a little bit of horror when I was telling them of stories that have happened of people jumping off, breaking their necks and backs, being paralysed, and on top of that, you know, obviously losing their lives. So while I was so proud of what they did, and they were conquering their fear, I had to then install a little bit of fear and reality back into them. And I think I'd done the right thing, but it's that learning curve, making sure they understood the balance, why you have fear and why fear is helpful, and then being able to overcome it, what the benefits of being able to overcome your personal fears. I'm getting back out into the rural part, just leaving the village. This is the bit I like. There is also a kind of fear which may not be life-threatening, but it can have big consequences for yourself as well. For me, most people who watch this channel regularly will know that I own a home, and that's come on the back of having a mortgage. Now, I never mortgaged myself up to the max. Even back in the day when you could basically, you know, borrow yourself into the biggest black hole that you could, as long as you could pull it off by doing overtime shifts, multiple jobs, working every hour under the sun and pay it off, things would go swimmingly. But I always refused to do that, and I always borrowed on the basis that if I lost my job, because my job in the factory wasn't, you know, the most well-paid job, but for a low-skilled, low earner, shall I say, it paid relatively well. So I always borrowed within caution that if I lost that job and I ended up going somewhere else, I could still keep my house and keep the payments going. And that was fear, literally fear, stopping me borrowing to the max, while I have friends and contemporaries that would borrow to the max. And for a lot of them, it paid off, because not only did they keep it going with property prices going up, and they speculated well, that they've moved subsequently up the housing ladder to where they've got very nice properties, or they've been able to maneuver around the property market to accumulate a healthy bit of wealth. Me, on the other hand, yes, I do have a property which is mine, no mortgage, but that fear of being made redundant and not being able to keep my house made me stay on the bottom rungs of the ladder. So I have an extremely modest house and extremely modest finances. If I was able to overcome that fear, roll the dice and take a chance, I too might have a lot more wealth, bigger and more affluent properties. But I don't, and here I am. So fear held me back financially and through you know, socially going up the social pecking order or social ladder, whereas other people didn't suffer that fear and they've moved on. I do know people it's worked in reverse though, where, you know, they've borrowed heavily, you know, pushed hard, and, you know, with all the banking issues and the property price crash and things like that happened, yeah, they lost properties and money and everything, where I was able to ride it out because, quite simply, it was extremely modest by their standards how I was living and what I'd borrowed at the time for a mortgage. So there again, you can see, even though it might not be a life and death situation, fear can hold you back, or fear of potentially losing everything can, you know, make you make smarter, better choices for you in your personal circumstances. Just run into another two lanes splitting off, going off in various directions. I'm still continuing on the bigger one. So fear can be managed, and in a lot of cases it should be that wake-up call, warning sign that something ain't right or could potentially be going wrong. But on top of that, it can hold you back. It can prevent you from, well, moving forward in any way, shape or form, like it did with me with my mortgages. But having said that, I would always say to people, it's completely personal, unless, you know, you're in, let's say, a war zone, and then fear is universal across everybody around you. But learning to manage fear and overcoming it is a good thing, and being able to use your instincts to judge when, where and how, but also being able to suppress it, which will allow you to grow, move forward, and possibly, you know, that can help you out on a personal level. So it's all individual, but getting back to my two boys, yeah, valuable lesson learnt there. They overcame their fear, but us as parents, a few hours later, had to remind them that caution with what they were doing and what I was doing, there was a lesson that you had to take, that you had to pay respect, otherwise it could have serious consequences. You know, not respecting fear in itself, just jumping off cliffs into any body of water, could actually have serious consequences. So just a short little video on a few thoughts about fear and respecting fear, and possibly learning to overcome fear when needed. But yeah, fear is something that we all experience at some point. So thanks for coming with me, and all I'd like to say is take care, stay safe, and I hope to catch you guys on the trail. Well, I've misjudged that. I've come back and it's absolutely raging hot. I should have been half hour quicker. But as regard to fear and things like that, one thing I probably didn't point out was you need to have a healthy respect for fear. And it goes without saying, and that's been born out of millennia of evolution and humankind existence. And this is just an opinion and some random guy walking along central Portuguese roads and trackways, just rambling. And it's an opinion. And as we all know, everybody's got an opinion, like everybody's got an asshole. So what I would say is, if you've got anything regarding fears or trying to conquer them, I'm definitely not the professional that you need to be listening to. This is just an old guy rambling. You need to get some professional help. So yeah, I guess this is checking out now. I really want a coffee now. Right, cheers.
Come on! Are you dead? You must be the youngest to ever jump in there.
You owe your brother £10.